Orium was feeling good. She was calm, collected and excited. Even as she braced herself for the next contraction, she felt ready and strong as every muscle in her lower body began to tighten and ache. She began her breaths and looked forward to them as it meant she was one step closer to meeting her son. Ichigo was not doing too well. As soon as Orium mentioned that she was getting cramps, Ichigo lost his mind and everything he thought he knew as a doctor was out of the window. Ouch! Orium squeaked as she dropped the plate she was working on cleaning in the sink. It landed with a soft clang. She put a hand to her large stomach, and started to breathe. Orium had been through some Braxton Hicks before, but when this pain did not go away as quickly as those ones, she began to get excited as she called out for Ichigo. Ichigo! She called out, knowing her husband was not far away from her. The orange-haired doctor poked his head through the doorway to the kitchen with a bored look on his face. "Yeah? What's up?" he said, looking at his wife at the sink cleaning the dishes from dinner. I think it's time. I think I've been having contractions for a few hours now." Orium explained, the crease in her brow fading as the pain began to die down. Ichigo practically jumped over the dining table and gently grabbed her shoulders and began to ramble. "Oh God, okay. What's the pain from 1 to 10? We have the bag packed, right? Right? Wait, oh crap, never mind, don't you worry about that right now Orium, I'll pack the bag. Or did I do that the other day? Wait, do we have diapers? Damn it. What do we not have? Are you okay? Do you need to sit down? Should we call the doctor?" A quick flick to his brow silenced the frazzled strawberry. "Ichigo, just get me the phone and I will call the midwife," Orium said with a sweet smile, to which Ichigo complied quietly as his panicked ramblings continuing in his head. That was 4 hours ago, and her contractions had finally gotten close enough for them to go to the hospital. As Orium is lying in the hospital bed, Ichigo beside her holding her hand and being suspiciously quiet, she gives him a small smile in the middle of the painful contraction she was currently experiencing and squeezed his hand. "Don't look so worried, Ichigo," she said breathlessly, the contraction easing off a little bit. Ichigo gave her a weak smile that didn't reach his eyes, and gently squeezed her hand back in silent support. "I'm sorry. I am excited. I just hate seeing you in pain and not being able to do anything about it other than let you break my hand," he joked, trying to ease his own tension as he watches his wife battle with the bastard contractions. Orium giggled, easing back into her pillows as the pain dulls. "You can't be the hero in every situation, Ichigo, this is definitely one of those situations. Don't worry, I got this. I was designed for this after all," Orium said cheerfully. Ichigo smiled and nodded enthusiastically. "Damn right, I can't believe how calm you are right now. You're a badass Orium," he said, making his cute wife blush and beam at him. "Did your dad and sisters get here yet?" she asked, wondering why she hadn't heard her eccentric father-in-law's screams of joy disrupting the hallways of the hospital yet. Ichigo scowled at the mention of his father. Karen texted, "They're gonna be here in the next 5 minutes, they're just parking the car. I'm sure we'll hear the idiot when they get to the waiting room. I've made Yuzu promise to keep him in check until he's born. I don't want his stupidness making things more stressful for you," he grumbled but almost fondly. "I'm sure they're excited. He's going to meet his first grandson today," Orium beamed, rubbing her bump lovingly. Ichigo smiled, adding his other hand to his wife's gentle caress on their unborn son. Ichigo was beyond excited, but he was understandably worried. Any new father feels the same way. Would he be a good father? Would he be able to protect his family? Would the kid like him? How do you even hold a baby? All of these questions he had been asking himself for the past 9 months would have driven him into a hole in the ground had it not been for how amazingly confident his wife had been about the whole thing. Ichigo knew she was going to slide effortlessly into motherhood, and her confidence seeped into him as a result. He knew he would be fine as long as he had her by his side throughout this. His father and sisters showed up soon after the doctor came in and told them that Orium was finally ready to push. After a pep talk from his father and sisters, Ichigo went to be by his wife's side as he watched her do the most unbelievably incredible thing he had ever seen. He watched the whole thing. He was adamant that he wanted to be in this with her, every bit of it, however uncomfortable it may have been. He remembers the soothing words of encouragement he gave to Orium as she was in the thick of contractions and in the most pain and exhaustion she had ever felt in her whole life. He remembers the nurse telling them, "The head is out." "He's got his daddy's hair," the nurse beamed, urging Ichigo to take a look at his son's orange head. Ichigo felt like he was going to faint and explode with pride at the same time as he witnessed the top of his son's head. "Orium. I see him. He's coming to meet us, just a little more and he's here," Ichigo said excitedly, urging his wife to keep on pushing. Orium had her eyes closed tightly as she tried to fight through the pain. She gave a strained laugh and nodded. "Yeah. I got this, Mama's gonna try her hardest now, Kazui," Orium said, mustering up all of her remaining strength for the last stretch of her labor. With a few more words of encouragement from the nurses and Ichigo, she gave one last big push and suddenly her life was complete. A loud, strong wail was heard that resonated throughout the room and shook the couple to their bones. Orium sank back onto the bed and let out deep breaths of exhaustion, her hands still wrapped tightly around her husband's. She opened her eyes, and looked towards the cry. "Where is he?" Orium said weakly. Ichigo didn't respond. He was just staring in the direction that the midwives took their son, washing him off quickly before returning with a little bundle of blue soft cotton. "Congratulations, Mr. and Mrs. Kurosaki. You have a perfectly healthy, beautiful baby boy," the nurse smiled as she handed the bundle to the new mother, who was already reaching for the baby. Orium brought the baby to her chest, unwrapping him slightly so that she could feel his soft skin on her chest. She looked down at her baby boy's face, seeing his soft features that most definitely came from her, but the rest belonging to his father. She leaned down to his soft tuft of orange hair, and inhaled the scent of her sweet baby boy. She stayed like that for a few moments, just taking her little miracle in. She kissed his soft head and cheeks, her tears falling as she did so. "He's perfect," she sobbed softly, finally tearing her eyes off her boy to her husband, who was already crying silently. She smiled at him, and carefully sat herself up a little bit and handed their son to his father. He was hesitant at first. This was the moment he was the most scared of, holding him. He was so tiny, he didn't look like he belonged in his big, strong, scarred from battle hands. But it was like an instinct that awoken deep inside of him, and he just knew what to do as he gently took his son, making sure to support his soft little head. He took a look at his son's sleeping face and he thanked the gods that he looked like his mother where it counted. Ichigo thought he was perfect, and felt a love he hadn't ever felt in his life. "Hey buddy," he said, smiling down at his child. He did the same as Orium, feeling the sudden urge to smell him after hearing from everyone he'd met with kids about the heavenly baby smell. They were right. "Orium, you really are amazing, you know that," Ichigo said, eyes still locked onto his son's face as he played with his tiny little hands, taking in every detail. Orium giggled. "I know, but you helped too," she joked, her eyes becoming heavier, but she tried to fight it, not wanting to miss a moment of her new son. Ichigo chuckled and looked towards the door where he could practically hear his father's excited obnoxious breaths through the wood of the door. "Someone let the idiot in, he's gonna hyperventilate," Ichigo said with humor in his voice. The nurse smiled and opened the door, and sure enough his father and sisters were standing there. His father was barely containing his excitement as he bounced on his toes, holding some blue balloons. Yuzu stood there with a big bouquet of pretty pink and white flowers also on her tiptoes trying to get a good look at her new nephew, and Karen stood there holding a soft stuffed lion we all know and love, who was also trying his best to stay immobile as he took a peek at the baby. The family members all took seats around the hospital bed and took turns holding the new member of the clan. Yuzu went first, as she was the calmest out of the three of them surprisingly. The grandpa was leaning over her shoulder, itching for his turn to hold his grandson. "Oh, you guys," Yuzu began, tears streaming down her face as she stared at the baby lovingly. "He's just so cute," she finished, finally handing the baby over to her twin, much to the chagrin of the grandpa. "Hey!" he whined as Karen took the baby in her arms stiffly, not knowing what to do, just like her brother at first. "Just support his head, he's pretty calm, so don't worry," Karen Orium kindly instructed as Karen got comfortable with the weight of the little baby in her arms. She looked at him and smiled, loving him and already imagining getting him his first soccer ball. "Thank goodness you look like your mom," casually Karen said, giving her brother a mocking smirk. "Hey," Ichigo huffed. "He's definitely gonna be a heartbreaker," Ishine laughed as he finally got his turn at holding the precious strawberry. He looked at his grandson, and saw a lot of his own wife in his little face. "Yeah, definitely gonna be popular with the ladies, just like Grandpa," Ishine laughed, making Orium beat Ichigo to the scolding. "Absolutely not. He's not allowed to leave his mommy for a lady until he's at least 30. Wait, no. More like 49. Maybe 48? Ichigo, what's a good age?" she rambled, looking to her husband for help. 100, Ichigo replied as he took his son from his father's arms and gave him back to his wife. Orium took him with a cheerful nod, nestling her son in her arms as he slept soundly. The family just watched the baby sleep for a while, taking in the peaceful moment. "Maybe we should make that 101. Karen suggested, already thinking about how many girls she's going to have to scare away from her precious nephew. "Poor Kazui doesn't stand a chance.